Welcome to the Games Revealed podcast brought to you by Bunny Strike Studios. This is James.
I'm Tyson.
And this is Shagwa.
And we're diving into another game this week. And this game, it came out of nowhere, just like about all the other games we were doing this year, it feels like so far. But this one is true. I feel like the true indie game that like just came out of nowhere, and it's Loop Hero.
And for anyone paying special attention to our last podcast, you could have caught the sneak peek little leak that we gave everyone at the beginning of the episode where it looped. See what we did there? Oh, foreshadowing.
Tyson's just layering in the Easter eggs in the editing process.
Just gonna loop. Looping everything.
Loop Hero, baby. I was very surprised. I loved this game.
Yeah, I was excited initially, and then I started to get a little bit of, I guess you call it wet feet. Like right before I bought it, I was like, I don't know, man. Like I'm starting to question everything. And then the first loop, I was in it, dude. Like, just like we talked about with Hades, it's like, one more run. And then 2 hours later, you're still playing it.
Yeah, this is one of those, it's happens every time. We decide to do a game. Yeah, this is a big game, kind of cool. I buy it. I think you guys are going to like it. Oh, once you hear that, I don't know, man. James is recommending it. This must be garbage.
You haven't been right about any other game.
Yeah, I mean, Half-Life Alyx.
All trash games.
Black Mesa, Opposing Force. I could go on and on with all the good games that are
Leisure
out there.
Suit Larry.
That's about it, though.
Yeah, just Half-Life.
Leisure Suit Larry. So the game,
you need.
Just a little briefing on the game. My fun little take on it. Welcome to a world of the void where nothing is where it should be, and you have to build your own outhouse just to have it destroyed by some monster. And become the hero that has forgotten why, what, who he is, but can still fight, survive, and sass back, because he does sass back a little bit.
Still sassy.
You fight that lich, man. He sasses back against that guy. He's like, shut up, I'm just going to kill you.
I just love that the lich is like, stop. Why are you trying to build an outhouse? And the guy's like, because I remember that we had outhouses. And the lich is like, yeah, well, nothing that you do is going to matter in the future. So I'm just going to keep coming back and wrecking your outhouse.
Keep wrecking your outhouse. And I'm going to suck up all your shit and put it in my bag.
Oh, my gosh. My bag of shit.
Pretty much. And so, no, this game is definitely one of those... don't know where I'm going with this games.
Oh, you do know where you're going. You're just looping. It's a circle path.
I know. Today's going to be one of those days I'm just going to loop and like, don't know what I'm talking about today. What are we talking about today? Oh, what are we talking about today?
Welcome back to the Games Revealed podcast. We're talking about Loop Hero. No, so I was actually very surprised about this, and I decided to dig in a little bit and see what I could find on the developers. And I know it's a very freshly, pretty new game, and not very much on the developers or like interviews or documentaries that I could find. I found one interview that I was kind of underwhelmed by. We'll just start with that. But in that interview, I learned that even the developers, the devs, don't know really where to class this game in a genre. They don't know. So they're honestly looking for whoever has the best idea. Honestly, I kind of feel like it fits into the RPG element, even though you're not in the role of the hero. You're in the role of the dungeon master, which I still feel is a role-playing game.
I feel like it's a reverse RTS where
It's like
you do some building, but then you do a lot of mining, but when you mine, you're actually defeating monsters. I know it might not make sense to a lot of people, but for me, that's how I see it.
a reverse RTS.
I mean, it seems so similar to Hades to me, so I think roguelike fits it just fine, because you just keep endlessly crawling through the dungeon to get more stuff so you can build better stuff, so that you can endlessly crawl through the dungeon so that you can get more stuff, so you can build better stuff so that you can endlessly crawl through the dungeon.
So you're role-playing a rogue. I win.
No, but in the end,
They do actually have a rogue class now.
in the end, I don't think it's a very difficult one to put down on what genre it is. It's just that's what it feels like to me.
Well, like,
you're probably
like
the most
music,
correct on this.
Like
I don't know.
music,
I
it's
feel
like
like
who
we all
really
got
cares
three.
what the genre is? I do get that it helps for branding and stuff, but
jazz.
ultimately it's like, you made a good game. Cool. I don't care what genre it falls in.
But still, I know it's not a big deal, and they're not saying it's a big deal, but I just like really think about it. Like it doesn't really fit into any genre.
Yeah.
And it kind of goes well with like their inspiration too, because when they were asked about inspiration on the game, I expected something like maybe something similar, Dundertale or something. I don't know, but I'm sure it's been in development a little longer than maybe that can give inspiration to. But they basically said nothing. I think even one of the developers said that Disciple 2 was one of his favorite games, but he's just like, nothing really inspired this game.
That
He's
inspired his artwork. Is what
yeah,
he
yeah, I
said.
guess, yeah. He's like, but like this looping thing, he's like, really, there's nothing out that kind of looks or feels like this. Even Hades, even though realistically it is a big circle that you're doing in that game. I don't know. This feels very weird.
It's like, what was your inspiration for this game? Sitting in front of RPG Maker for hours on end with little sleep. Yeah, that's it. It came together.
Going to the DMV.
Yeah.
I really do find it very bizarre that they'd have zero. I mean, and it's just only it's a 4-person team. There's only 2 people that were in the interview.
Yeah.
But I'm like, it just seems so weird to say no inspiration. Where I'm like, you probably had a lot of inspiration, you just can't think of it because every game's built off of other games.
Well, influence.
Almost, influence.
That's a little different though. Inspiration is like you're literally trying to pattern it after it, and influence, I mean, that's every little bit. Any bit that's even similar to something else means it was influenced by it. It's like
that's true.
how almost every fantasy novel is influenced by J.R.R. Tolkien, but not necessarily inspired by it.
So that means he wrote them all, so he gets
pretty
credits.
much.
Pay him his money.
I just disagree that they had zero inspiration or either one. Like almost every game, I feel like there has to have some type of layer from a previous game, whether or not which direction you go.
Yeah, you damn Ruskies. James is going to tell you how you should feel about how you created this game.
He taught me how to swear in Russian.
I'm just saying. And I'm not trying to be too mean, but like they were definitely deep dive game developers. They had not seen the light in years.
Oh my gosh. Oh yeah, it was an odd interview. I'm not gonna lie, but let us interview you and we'll make it better.
No,
We won't. We probably won't. It'll probably be bad.
guys.
Make it worse.
I'm just trying to be honest.
It probably would be bad, but it kind of does fit into the next part too, because they built this game in an interview I was reading, an additional interview that I was reading. They were kind of going off of like where they got their story from and how they built it, and they said they're like, well, we built it around the mechanic. Like we thought of the mechanic. Let's just have a guy running in a loop. Just, literally doing circles. Why? Why is he doing that? The end of the world happened, and there's nothing else. Okay, and he's going to rebuild the world. Why? Because he remembers? I don't know. That works. Okay. So it's like, yeah, we want to put these mechanics into our game, and we're going to make the story fit to those mechanics. How? However we say. And that's the way it is. He remembers. Not super deep, right? Not real hard canon there, but it works.
I think it makes it fun though for the dialogue. Like we talked about a bit earlier with the Lich, some of the interactions between those 2 guys. I think it just freed him up to be able to be like, "Who's this guy? What are you doing? Stop talking to me. I'm gonna kill you right now."
It can definitely it bleeds into, so when you play the game, it definitely shows that they went gameplay first, story second. Even though the story is good, I actually like the story. But you can definitely tell, like, it's that, and that's usually another thing with RTSs. I feel like RTSs tend to go towards gameplay first, then story typically, what is when I've played RTSs at least. And so I fully agree with this, and I think it was a good direction for them, and they really killed it.
Oh,
I think.
I love it. Even the first time you run into a vampire, and I read this all throughout the internet too. A lot of people liked that interaction, even though it was only a little bit of lore that it let you know. But they almost conversed like not that they knew each other, but that they were familiar with each other's class of, being. Like, she was familiar with vampires, and those were estate owners, in the world before. And she was very familiar, like, why are you doing this? And I can't control the blood, I need everything. And it's like he'd been there for a long time. Like, he'd been trying to save the world, just like your character's trying to do. So it's like, just in that little interaction, I was able to at least formulate or start thinking or gathering ideas about it. And I just like that. So even if they are just making it up on the fly and just jamming things together, they jammed it into one of the most perfect jigsaw puzzle of a kitty cat I've ever seen. It's
You just got jammed.
It's a beautiful kitty cat jam picture.
I know. That was when you come across the first vampire. I love that. So I totally agree with you. Like I'm like, normally you're like, oh, this is a bad guy. It's gonna be a bad guy. Vampires are just historically bad guys. But he's like, no, he was actually good for the most part before, but then the hunger, and so I love that.
Yeah. It's interesting too how like it kind of fits with what we're saying here, where it feels very like, yeah, it's convenient, so we wrote it that way, but at the same time, like you can tell they put thought behind it. So it's like the interaction with the vampire, they do the explanation explaining how vampires used to exist in the world that is fragmented and doesn't exist anymore. And so you get that lore and you feel good about it. But if you like think of it kind of disconnectedly, you're like, I mean, yeah, that's a pretty it fits way to explain the vampires into the world, which is still fine by me. Like, I don't really see that as a loss, but it's just interesting. Like it fits right into what you're saying, where it's just like, sure, that works. Let's go.
Yeah. Well, and not to spoil anything coming later into that, but some things I read in your notes, it kind of lines up because what you can do with the farm.
Yeah.
You know, and then it's oh crap, yeah, estate owners. Yeah. So pretty cool stuff there. So really, I mean, really connected. Even the harpy, when the harpy first comes in, and it's like, you can't save the world. I need to feed my babies. You know, it seemed like even they knew of a world or of a way of being before they were here, and even had some justification for it. And I killed that harpy straight dead. I mean, my hero did, but I made sure that they could.
I have not gotten to the harpy yet, but I did do a 19 loop run before I got my butt handed to me. That was super fun.
19?
Oh, no, the harpy is just when 19. You make the 9 rock. The 9 rock.
I've never put 9 rocks together.
And you did a 19? Oh, yeah, no wonder. No wonder he did a 19 run. He just did slime balls the whole time. He's like, slime balls, baby. I don't know why everyone's saying this is
run,
easy.
I had the whole board filled out, but I didn't realize there were connections. That was when I started to learn, was once I filled that board out about these connections. But we'll get to that stuff later.
Yeah.
One of the things that I really did like, though, I really like the music in this game. It reminded me a lot of Undertale, where it's just kind of like, you can tell it's the same guy that did the music the entire time. It adds to the environment a lot, but on top of that, like, you can tell when things are heating up. Like, that's what I really like, is you can tell when things are starting to get more intense. You know when the boss is there for sure. I mean, you get the little screen animation too, but then that change in music, and you're just like, I got this last loop to loot up or I'm in real trouble. So I really like that. But the music was done by a guy named Alexander Gorislavitz. And he goes by Blink. And he's stated in an interview that he's going to be adding more music to anyone that bought the soundtrack on Steam. They'll get the new additional music for free as they update the game. So that has motivated me to buy the soundtrack because, I mean, I already like the music a lot. I just bought the standard edition initially, but after playing it, I was like, maybe I'll get the soundtrack. But there's only like 4 songs. And then that announcement where he's going to be adding music and it's just going to be included with an upgrade if you bought the soundtrack, I'm like, oh yeah.
Oh,
we need that. I need more diversity with the music. As awesome as the music is, a couple more tracks would not make me feel bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you said, like, Shag's gonna like this music.
Oh, I was like, it's not bad. I was like, and this is definitely Shag music. And sure as shit, there it is. I'm
the
buying the
second
soundtrack.
I turned it on, I was like, they got one thing right already.
Yeah.
Well,
they killed it.
And Blinch was in that interview. He was one of the guys that were being interviewed. And it was it was insightful. I thought it was an insightful interview, but yeah, it was definitely like,
no, it was good. Like, we got a lot out of it.
It's
a little awkward though.
Yeah, a little awkward.
Yeah. And he's done music for one other video game that I believe is PC and mobile only. I don't know that it's very well known, but it's called Please Don't Touch Anything, which is a cool name, and it's some type of puzzle game. But he did the music for that as well. So this isn't his first time doing music for a game. But I could not find much of anything out about Please Don't Touch Anything. So that's all I know, is that he did music for that.
Well, you're supposed to keep your hands off of it. So
yeah, don't touch it.
I have one question. I don't know if you guys know this. I love asking questions that we don't research in the podcast. Do you know, like,
get ready for this next part to get cut out?
Yeah, probably. No, but how long does this game take to get created? And are these developers just new to it? I'm just curious.
I actually had a hard time finding anything about development, so I was surprised that you found an interview with them.
Welcome back
to the Games with Phil podcast.
I feel like I feel like we dropped the ball on that one.
James is the lich. James is the lich of this podcast.
I couldn't find anything. So
we're just gonna shove this all into the lich bag and we're gonna get the hell out of here.
Nope, I don't know.
No, we failed the ball. We dropped it on that. I couldn't find it.
I couldn't find how long it took, and like that much about the developers.
I saw that it came out in March. And there was an early development, but I didn't see how long the early development lasts for, or if we're even still in the early development. I got no idea, man.
I don't think it's early access.
Yeah, early access. Sorry, that was terrible word
No,
choice right there.
they released it. The game feels fairly complete. Yeah, they might add more stuff, but
They do say there are bugs. There are still bugs, and that's going to be their main focus right now is fixing bugs. I do know that. I don't know the answer to your question.
no, it's okay.
But I'm going to redirect it into different ways. They're going to address bug fixes first, and then they're going to come out with additional content. They actually have some things. That's what I was able to find in one of the article interviews. They do have a lot of content planned that got side tabled that they're going to bring back, and it's still going to make it into the game. They just didn't have time to make it into it right now. So that they do still have content. So that's at least exciting coming. I don't know if that necessarily makes it early access, especially if they're still addressing a lot of bug fixes and that's going to be their main focus. I don't know.
I like how you played that card.
In Steam,
It's a forest card.
in Steam, it's not early access. I could be mistaken, but I'm pretty sure it's not.
Yeah, I didn't think so either because
And having bugs or even extra
Touche.
content nowadays doesn't need to make it early access or anything like that. It's really
Yeah, I know.
it's
but
so polished. Like you play it, I was surprised. Yeah, there's bugs. I'm like, yeah, when you really know how to break it.
yeah, it is in early access. We've just decided.
Yeah, I'll come out and say it. This is the best Atari game that I've ever seen. So James is right. It's
joystick works real good.
incredibly polished. No, but I got to comment on that just because I find it so interesting. So it is very retro styled, and when you get into the combat scenarios, the graphics beef up a little bit, kind of NES style. But dude, like the base, it is Atari.
I just realized I know the answer to James's question.
Oh snap!
At least to some form, because in the interview I do remember part of the 8-bit is they said, why did you go the 8-bit retro route? And he said, well, they had to, and apparently everything they build is 8-bit. So if everything they build is 8-bit, they have built other things.
There you
So
go.
But we don't know what those games are. So do us a favor and do our job for us and let us know.
I mean, they went into their strengths and they did a good job. It really shows go into your strengths when you're developing stuff, I guess, because I think it's really polished. But
Loop Hero.
so the soundtrack's awesome. The development process was interesting to research because there wasn't much. Because this is a kind of newer game. It's not like, I don't even know if we found anything about volume that much in the development process. But it's just how simple the game is what I like. I just like how I can jump in and jump out.
Well, and that's the nice part about it too, is it is so simple. You really can just go and do like slime loops and try and like place things down at your leisure if you want to, or don't, and have the cards expire, use the loot or don't, your gear. So it's very easy. You don't have to be good to make, and I'm not saying this for Shag's 19 run, whatever, but you really don't have to be good to make it long runs. But the more you start adding, like I was like, oh, this is easy. And I started chucking a bunch of stuff onto the map. And it's just like, you don't feel the effects of those things for like 2 to 3 loops sometimes. So it's like, oh, still pretty easy. And you're adding more crap in. And then all of a sudden you're dead before you know it.
See, I wish I would have thought about the slime run thing because, like, literally, I just use the tiles as I get them. So I'm like, my track was full. Every empty space was full.
Oh my gosh, that's a pretty good run.
Run like 16 through 17. It was just because I had set up this well, we'll get into builds and stuff later, but I had a build that allowed for this to happen. And then on one turn, like you said, it just got way more difficult. I went from not even having to worry about dying to like, oh, I'm dying.
Oh yeah. I was like, my attack speed life steal combo is doing so good, I don't even lose life. And then all of a sudden I'm losing 100 life every hit from one guy, and there's 4 guys, and I'm like,
yeah, and
I'm
that's
dead.
the thing, dude, is as you get more and more guys and more fights, more days go by.
Yep.
So then there's more dudes per square, and that's where you start running into problems. Is like every fight is like 5 enemies, and you're just like balls. But to James's point, super easy to get into, stupidly fun. Like, I like this game more than Hades. I'm just gonna come out and say it. And you guys heard me last podcast. I loved Hades, but this game, as far as just sitting down and playing it goes, I'm kind of annoyed that I'm here at the podcast right now rather than playing it before I have to go to work.
I could be playing Loop Hero rather than talking about Loop Hero.
This is definitely one of those games I'd like to talk about more than playing, even though I do love to play it. And I like, it's really hard to throw this up because there's been so many games this year that are kind of loopers. But
yeah, there's another one too that's on my radar. I wish I could remember the name of it, but it is a current theme, that's for sure.
That's definitely one thing I forgot to put into here. But like, Yeah, we don't know what genre to put it in. Well, I don't know why all these looping games are coming out at the same time, but they must be inspired by something or something.
Super Hot,
so weird.
Deathloop, even Hades is kind of a Deathloop game.
But that was last year.
Yeah, but it's. I think that's the genre. I think we just created the genre for it. Deathloops.
Looper.
That PS5 exclusive.
Oh no, we'll call them ETs.
Returnal?
Edge of Tomorrows.
Oh my gosh.
Is that a Tom Cruise? Holy hell.
We're going to call them ELs, Edgelords.
Edgelords of Tomorrow cruisings. So, yeah, that's the genre.
All right, fair enough.
Nailed it.
And the video and the podcast, we're good to go.
Call the devs.
Musa
Let 'em
here
know.
setting industry standards.
We need 5% revenue. 'Cause they gotta be.
Yeah,
oh,
we
they
have
gotta be
to.
raking
We
in the money.
need you to pay the fee so that we can apply the genre to your game for you.
Yeah, exactly. We're the creators.
Yeah.
But no, it's
It's like an HOA for games.
with how simple it is, and I love how complex it can get, and then of course all of the different challenges that come up, like the bosses that we're going to talk about later. But I love how complex, and I'm going to use the word again, min-max. I love how min-maxy you can get with certain things, especially in your builds, even though it's random. And again, we'll get into that crap later. But I love the complexity that comes with such a simple game and such a simple interface. I love that I don't control the hero. I don't have any control over him. I just control his world, and I'll send him to hell when I'm ready.
Control his existence. And that's so different for me. It is an RPG style almost in some ways, because there's some RPGs where they're kind of like on auto attack, and you just have to make sure they do the right attack cues and stuff like that. But with this, it's just controlling, and we can go into the builds a little later, but like it's just controlling. Just
You
the
can
way he's
pause
loaded up.
and unpause and then gear him out. Yeah.
Yep. And
So are you the final boss? Are you your greatest enemy?
I will walk out of this podcast
Are
right
you?
now.
but it's just so chill and fun. And like I can sit down, I can spend 3 hours, or if I want to just sit there and let my guy hit slimes, you can. I love that simplicity. I just wish it was more portable.
Yeah, I was going to
agree.
say, like, when is this coming on Switch? Because it's perfect for that.
Why switch? When's it coming to my phone?
Wow, you know what?
Literally perfect. You don't need buttons. You
This-
just need to tap and drag. Tap and drag. That's
This is,
all you need.
This is one of very few games I actually would probably enjoy on the
And
phone.
I'd buy it on the Switch. I'd buy it on the Switch. I'd buy it on my phone. I'd buy it on a tablet. I'd buy it on those devices.
Would you
That's
eat
it,
it with
actually. I
green
wouldn't
eggs
buy it
and
on.
green
Yeah.
I wouldn't buy it on PlayStation
Buy
because
it
I
on a
already
mouse
own
and
it on
play it with
Steam.
the house.
I would play it in my house on my tablet.
No,
But I
say-
wouldn't buy it on PlayStation 4 because that's too much.
The reason I say Switch is because, you know me, like, I, even with my Switch, only play it docked. I don't really do well with mobile anything. It's just not my style. I'm blind, I need a big screen, and I like to be comfortable when I'm playing games. But this is a game, like, in a car, I could sit there and totally play it. While my sister's yakking about something I don't care about, I could sit there and play it. Like, this is a
cares about
game
your
you can
kids,
just, like,
Trisha?
and I whipped out my lizard. And just
But, see,
play it.
but then why? What if you happen to forget your Switch? Oh boy, it's a good thing I got my phone back up so I can play my Loop Hero.
Well, I do want to say
Get
this
it
about
on mobile.
James's point, though, where it is a chill game, and it's like you're absolutely right, except for how like intense I get when I play this game.
Oh,
I am so dialed in when I play this game.
Well,
dude.
so am I, and that's the beauty of it. Because when you're dialed into your phone anywhere, that's what you're doing. Is you're just sucked into your phone. On the train, you're sucked into your phone, so it's perfect. And then when
me-
you're screaming, everyone's normal. Because that guy's screaming and he's screaming. You're looping. It's on the subway.
For me, it's different intensity levels, but it's definitely one of those ones where you can go super chill, just depending on how far you want to go. Because if I go into a run, I'm like, I'm not going to make this a big run. I just want to get in, get some loot, get out, so I can build my buildings. That's how I do some of my runs.
Yeah. Well, it's like how I
And
thought Stardew Valley was chill
you're
until I
doing it
saw
all wrong.
how many
They all
hours
have to
I'd
be
put
long.
into it.
Ah, yeah.
If you don't die at the end of your run, you're doing it wrong.
That's Tyson. He dies every time. So just one more time. I have 10 health. One more time.
I've done that so many times, and I need to stop. I have an addiction, and I need help.
Before we actually get into something worthwhile, which is our sponsors, that's the only reason people come here is to listen to our sponsors.
Yeah.
I have a question for you, Chris. How'd you not run into the Lich hitting 19 levels?
I did run into the Lich.
it on the 19th?
I stayed.
Oh, and you
So I
killed
didn't
him?
realize this. The first time I killed the Lich, I didn't realize you could stay.
Okay.
So I went back because it's like, keep all your loot. You killed the Lich. And I was like, yeah, boy.
How the hell did you
So
kill
then
the Lich?
I killed the Lich again. And then I was like, wait, I want to see if I can kill him again just to see if I can get to him twice in a run. And I almost did.
Did it spawn at 19?
No.
When did it spawn?
He spawns at around level 8 and 10. Weirdly, I think he spawns based on how many things you have on
How
the
many
board.
tiles?
It is when the bar fills up.
Yeah. So I don't know if he doesn't spawn again because the whole board was filled up, but I was kind of thinking he would spawn at level 20, but I died on run 19. So I will never be able to confirm that theory
probably just the
because
next
I got
boss.
my face handed to me.
Crazy.
Yeah, no, sorry. I had to ask that question. I'm like, how'd you not run into
It
the
was
lich?
weird because I thought I would, like, at 20 levels, I honestly thought I'd see him twice.
Well, that's what we kind of speculated once we knew that it was a looping game, because he almost beat the Lich King on one. I almost beat it. It was a sliver, son of a
Oh, wait,
bitch.
the game?
No, the Lich King, just the Lich. And so we're like, well, if it was that easy to almost kill it on like our second or third run of the game or whatever, what is beyond? Like, does he just get bigger, or is there more bosses? We do know that there's more bosses.
I found out
that
after a second run where I fought him the second or third time I fought him, because I fought him a few times. But he does spawn with buildings that make him stronger and harder to kill. And it doesn't matter if it's your first time running into him.
I know. Yeah, I know.
Which I thought was interesting, because the first time I ran into him, it was just him. And then the first time I ran into him after I did run into him once after killing him once, now that I think about it. No. It was just the second time I ran into him after the first time I encountered him. He had buildings. So this third run, same thing. He had a bunch of buildings spawn with him, and I was like, all right, so I wonder if that's all based on how many things you have placed down as well, or if it's based on how many times you've encountered him.
Welcome to the bosses portion of the podcast.
I know, right?
Anywho, you know what the best part of this game is? It doesn't have ads.
No, this is why they all came to this episode, is to listen to our ad, which is just essentially one long loop. It's been a loop for the past 6 months.
Yeah.
Looping the ad.
And I pray to God we can give you a new one on this one. We're going to record another one today.
And it's going to loop.
And you'll loop that one, but at least it'll be new.
It'll be your new favorite.
Yeah. Welcome to the next ad.
Guys, we're back.
Yeah!
Welcome to Games Revealed Podcast. This is Shagwa.
And I'm Tyson.
And
This is James.
And James did not make it to the second loop of the podcast.
I died. I'm usually a 2-level chump kind of guy.
A 2-pump jump.
But they're not pumps, they're
funny.
levels.
That's
So
true.
he's made it to 2 rounds around the loop. Good for James. He might have placed a vampire lodge.
And it's very, like, we talked about running into the Lich, so it's very prompt that, like, we're going to talk about it a little bit and then beyond a little bit.
Yeah, because he's as much as I know.
after?
That's all I know is that guy.
So first,
I know.
did you guys finish the Lich yet?
No.
Like, I killed him. I don't know if I finished him because he keeps coming back.
Oh, you'll know when you finish it.
Okay, I did not
You
finish.
know when you
I did
finish-
not finish the Lich.
when you finish
'cause I
him.
did-
So when you
'Cause I
finish,
don't know.
so when you beat the Lich, you only need to beat him once. Then you get the
Okay.
second chapter. There's 4 chapters, and there's just so much more to this game after the Lich. I thought it was going to be like the Lich, maybe like, because I saw you see the chapter 1 at the top when you're before you go into the expedition, and it's just, I'm like, okay, there's gonna be like 3. I was thinking, and probably 3 incarnations of the Lich, because he's obviously the guy that's, at least he makes it seem like he's the one that did everything. It's like, how, he's just, how'd you survive? How are you here?
It's almost like he
Void.
came into his Harry Potter bag to visit the world that he keeps in his little knapsack, and he's just like, hey, how are you making things in there? This is my little bag. Interesting. And then he just pops out. That's what I thought, because he's just like, he kind of lets you do it.
It just
So it's
sounded like
kinda
a Krampus legend right there.
well, it's like Harry Potter. It's like that guy's got that bag. It's almost kind of like what that fits in. He's like, destroys a world, puts it in this bag, and he's like, haha, another world for my shelf.
Tell
And
me
then he's
who's
like,
your
visits
bag
them every
keeper.
once in a
Who do
while.
you keep in your bag?
Yeah, it goes in there and steals their souls. So that's what it felt like to me, at least. But now I know I'm wrong.
Yeah.
But yeah, so after the Lich, there's 3 other for sure bosses.
Yeah.
And the Priestess, the Hunter, and then the final boss.
Well,
Which
there you
is-
go. I have not met any of those guys.
Well, it's because
Well,
it's
me
on-
neither, but
yeah.
the internet.
Facts.
I think I got close on the Priestess on chapter 2, which actually surprising. Once you get into a good groove, it's not too bad. But it's still it's. I've only put about 5-6 hours into this game. This game takes about around 30 is what how long to beat.com says is about 30, and it is still, I think, too early to guess how long, like, for, because they need more. Like, the more people that go in and say how long it took them to beat, the better it's going to come out. But 30 hours, 40 hours plus. Your strategy, I think,
dying every loop.
Yeah, you don't want to die every
So
loop.
you want to leave with your resources.
Your strategy, I think,
dying every loop.
Yeah, you don't want to die every
so
loop.
You want to leave with your resources.
You want to die every other loop.
No, things are hard.
If I could throw a little bit of strategy out there, just for me personally, just take your time. Go in, try to get out with some good loot. Don't try to stress it too much, and just build some of those buildings, because that's really what's going to get you past that first guy.
That's where I should have not done the 19 round run.
You would have,
because I had. Well, it turns out, by the way, there is a loot cap, and one of the benefits that you can get is to increase that loot cap a little bit. But like, I had shot past the cap on the loot, except for like certain items that you can't get unless you have certain enemies that spawn. But like anything that I could get standard, it had been maxed out for like 7 runs.
So when you're starting the chapter, it will say loot caps and stuff on there. I think the chapter 4 doesn't have a loot cap.
Oh, nice.
Oh, crazy.
So there's ones that have more, like, and each chapter will have different difficulty. It will show you what each level will affect the enemies. There's like, each chapter is just, which adds more complexity to the game. It's really cool that they did that.
Which, like you're saying, honestly, it's a good strategy too. I would say if you can handle it after your first lich kill, stay in it a little longer to get more loot, but then at some point go back to your base and just take all that extra loot with you. Because I will say that the looting increased quite a bit after I stayed behind on the lich. And he gives you some pretty nice stuff. Which, when I first killed him, it weirded me out because I got these cool weapons and things, and then I went back to town and everything reset, and I was like, why did he even give me stuff?
Yeah. With the Lich, I would also say save your Oblivions and destroy his buildings when they spawn. So every time he spawns in with 3 buildings. If you can destroy all 3, the better chance you are going to kill him.
Or if you can already build buildings around your campfire to take up the space, they won't spawn. Yep. So if you can fill that space, they won't spawn the buildings. And it's only 5% increase per building. So getting rid of all, it's 15. Still, even 5 in that game, those percentages feel like they make big.
They do.
Big differences.
It really does. Because he whomps on you, so any extra life he has is just that much longer he's thumping on you.
Yeah, he whooped
My strategy, though, is the lighthouses, or the street lights, because they give you an attack speed increase and it stacks.
Yeah.
So I've started getting to the point where I put all of those around that building, as many as I can overlap on the campsite square as possible.
Yeah.
And then that tends to fit in with James's thing, which is you kind of build out from there so the space is occupied. But on top of that, you just have extra attack speed when you get there at the end, which is a nice bonus for whatever you've been building up to that point. So you get there and you're just like, oh yeah, we're going to kung fu this guy.
Because I've learned attack speed is definitely key.
Yeah, that was my best. My 19 run was all because of attack speed. I had like 145 attack speed, and it was amazing.
Oh, that's
it was
nuts.
so nice, dude. And that was without the street lamps.
Oh, I love that rogue. That rogue is awesome. I've been doing some like 150 crits, which for me is big. I like the rogue.
The rogue is so fun, but like if you don't get some crits and some certain things, it feels like you can go down really quick. Like it's. I haven't figured his build out fully, but I already like him more. But like, there's the rogue. So there's 3 heroes you can play as: the rogue, or the warrior, the rogue, and the necromancer.
I'm having a hard time with life sustain as the rogue.
Yeah,
but I feel like you're just supposed to do like just be evadey as a rogue, evade and crit, invade a crit. So maybe you don't really have much sustainability on that.
Well, speaking of that, I haven't really gotten into the rogue because I just felt like some of the other buildings gave you more advantages, but I've been wanting to. And that was another spot where I actually slowed myself down by doing that 19 loop run, because that was when I was going to unlock that building. And then I died and lost all the loot to do it. But so at this point then, are we talking about how we did our builds, or?
No, not yet.
Okay.
Sorry, I wanted to just flesh out the last little bit.
No, go for it, yeah.
For the, what people say about the rogue is like, it seems like most people like the rogue the most.
Yeah, that's also what I was understanding.
And then like in the building area, there's additional things you can unlock. And I only say this because when you go in, expect there to be a lot more, because I got into the game like, okay, this is how it's going to be. No, things will evolve. You'll get buildings where you'll get supply. You can craft with your supply. You can change items into other items with crafting, or I think deconstruct them and stuff like that. And so that's really it, though. I had to just throw that out. Like, there's just so much. Just be aware when you're building that some of your menus might change a little bit.
Yeah. And be aware when you're building farms, you can build over and over.
Yeah.
So don't waste your resources on them. Like build other things first. I kept building like the things, like thinking they'd fall off, and then I could just upgrade them. No, farms is like right in the center. That's not an upgrade thing. No, that's a thing you just keep building. I thought it was like a smithy or whatever. I built 2 effing farms before I built anything else. Wasted resources.
While you're building farms, I went the rogue route.
Yeah, I finally got a cemetery built though, where I could put all those damn villagers touching my farms.
Yeah, please don't touch anything. Full circle. We looped it back.
Looping it back. But speaking of looping it back, so with the builds, you already kind of went into it with the attack speed.
Yeah, I did. I mean, just because, But there's so much to the building, and even more as I started researching it. Because there were a couple things I didn't quite understand how they functioned, but when I looked into it, I definitely got more insight on it. But I'm curious to kind of hear what was successful for you guys, because we talked about attack speed being a huge thing. I combined it with vampirism, because it's... To me, it's because of how that game is, where you're just constantly running the same track and it gets progressively difficult. It's just sustain. So that's like how I look at it.
That's how I look at it too. I usually try to do vampirism, and if I can do a good run on attack speed, the item has to give me enough to make it feel like it's worth it, or I'll go like either health regen or some other stuff until I get a good item with attack speed. Yeah. I don't go with attack speed unless it's a good amount, because I just, for me, it didn't feel like it was doing enough unless you have enough.
Yeah, you have to break, in my opinion, you have to be above 35% for it to really show off. I actually didn't have too much luck with the regeneration, but that was one of the things I was reading that actually is like one of the better strategies is to do regen.
Regen is pretty good, especially when you start stacking it with other abilities that you can do, but I don't know. I didn't have a ton, well, no, that's not true. When I was playing the warrior, that's what I would go. Anything that gave me attack speed, vampirism, and regen, it got swapped for anything else. And those were some of the best runs I ever did. I unlocked the rogue and started learning it, and then was trying different builds. And then I'm slowly finding that, at least with the rogue, evade is much better. Mm-hmm. So getting evade over defense, increasing your attack speed because you can two-hand weapons. So you are dealing, I believe, some more damage each time. So you definitely want to be swapping away. And then crit damage and critical strikes is what I was really trying to go. So crit chances, I should say, increasing my chance to crit chance. And then if it also included crit damage, I would put it on there.
Is that unique to the rogue, that stat?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay.
So that's what I was trying to do, is build those things, but I was more focusing attack speed and evade over the other, like crit damage and crit chance.
I feel like if you're going health regen, doing evade with that also helps a lot, because it makes it so that you'll keep on regenning.
But I couldn't find any like real good regen in that build. That's the thing. Yeah, though. I couldn't find any decent sustain in the rogue.
But I've had so many random loops where I was getting used to like getting similar items. And then I went into one loop. I didn't get any vampirism. I didn't get a lot of stuff, but I was able to stack up my health regen pretty well, and that really helped a lot. It's just, that's another thing is
RNG is prevalent in this game.
It really
big
is.
Time,
and
big
so
time.
If you like a certain build, you might have to shelf it and collect some of those items and do some other one until you get a good build. Or because if you try to build your build every time, I feel like you're gonna fail early on. You're gonna die before you can get what you want. You just be careful with that.
Yeah. Well, there's another layer to the build.
Yeah. Die and get your perfect build.
There's another layer to the builds that I thought was really useful, because that one great run that I had was largely helped by this. So there's perks you can get if you build a certain building. I can't remember which one, where you can get perks. You have a small chance of getting a perk if you kill monsters. And so one of the perks that I could take was one that let me increase my damage based on my defense stat. So on that same build that I was doing vampirism with the 145 attack speed, I was also trying to layer in defense whenever I could get that on an extra item. So I'd use some items that were quite a bit lower in level that would lower my maximum health, because maximum health I didn't care about as much. It was more like how much health I could generate on a turn, because that tends to be what was saving my bacon. So anytime I could keep my vampirism or speed roughly the same, but get like a huge defensive boost, I'd take it, dude. And it was noticeable difference in damage. So there's a couple of those things that you can do. Like there's one that's every time you loop, you add one to your defense, which I didn't have that in that same run, but I was like, that would have been a sick combo. And then on top of that, there's like Sword of Dawn, which is really useful. There's one that gives you an overshield whenever you loop, which is really nice because that means when you fight the boss, you get the overshield because you're on that new space. So there's a lot of really useful things there that help out with your build, and a couple other ones that I haven't even explored yet. But the best run I had was largely influenced by that defense damage combination. And it was huge. Like I could notice it because I typically wouldn't change out my defensive stat unless it was at least 10 higher than it was. So every time I did it, like you could see the difference in damage.
That was another one. Shields and getting defense. Like if you can get a high enough defense item, you just don't get hurt. It's just crazy how well that will stack if you focus on it. But then again, once again, that's the weird thing about the builds is like I find like what people recommend online and what I'm doing, I'm like is a little different, but I'm like, it's weird.
And I'm over here being the rogue, summoning my rat wolf to battle with me, looking at these nerds with the fence, slipping behind them and slitting their throats because I'm a rogue.
Yeah, once he makes it past the slimes.
How's that?
30 loops and I'll be past slimes.
How's that second chapter going for you?
It's great. I might make it out alive.
I didn't even know I was in the second chapter. I still thought I was in the first one.
Hey. Just because I'm better at this game than you guys doesn't mean shit, okay? I just like to die at the end of my loop. I'm not good with my resources. I'm good with loops.
Well, speaking of,
just kidding,
there's one of the builds I want to try next. I found out that while we were researching for this, that your magic damage is true damage. So that actually seems like something that's worth try stacking. So on my next build, I think I'm gonna try and stack magic damage as much as possible because it's unavoidable. Like
you can't avoid it.
So that seems pretty useful. And then attack speed with true damage would probably be pretty good. But then I'd probably have to sack on
something else.
On vampirism. I probably could find defense because defense is combined with quite a few things, but it's not super often that it's stacked with vampirism. So
it's also random. I'm having a really hard time adding to this because I'm just like, I try to go certain routes, but I found about 2 or 3 routes I go just in case of backups.
I'm real curious if later in the game, if there is a building that you can build that allows you to modify. You remember how in Destiny you could like modify like random roll for weapon stats? Something like that would be super sick in this game.
That would be.
Because I know there's one that lets you swap cards out. I don't have it yet, but there's a card that you can get that you play, and then you have 20 uses where you can stop by it and swap cards out for different cards.
Oh, sick.
Yeah, that's like super handy.
Yeah, with the buildings, I didn't look into all the buildings, unfortunately. I just haven't. I've been wanting to loop, and so but the ones, the early ones like the rogue one. I can't remember what the one is to unlock the rogue, but then you have to unlock that to then unlock the crypt, which unlocks the necromancer.
Yeah, that was one I was really trying to get unlocked. Was the necromancer
crypt of the necromancer?
Necro crypt.
I know. It sounds so cool. I haven't seen anyone play it yet because I really haven't looked up gameplay for the necromancer, but it sounds cool.
Yeah, I feel like the secret ending to this game is because the necromancer so far. I think there probably will be other classes, but so far it's the last class you unlock. Is your fault because you resurrected the lich because you're a necromancer. You dirty
I'm saying
bastard.
You're building this whole world. You're the bad guy.
Oh my gosh! Every
with the secrets.
Every podcast, and guess what? I think you're the bad guy in this one. Little Nightmares. Yeah. You're the bad guy. Hades, you're the bad guy.
You let Isaac Clarke die. You're the bad guy.
Wait till you find the card that's the Blood Moon with the face on it.
Bad guy.
Zelda / Dead Space tie-in with every game.
See? Meat moons.
I would play that Legend of Zelda if they had necromancers or necromorphs in it.
Oh my gosh. So no, back to the building. These sons of guns. I didn't really do much into them. I don't know much.
Yeah,
I got the necromancer. I don't have that. I have the cemetery unlocked. I have the rogue unlocked. I forget that building. I got the kitchen. I got 2 farms built because I'm an idiot and I placed them in some of the stupidest places. I got like 2 farms out of one. 2. It fills all the empty tiles with farms, and I was able to capitalize on 2 because I didn't know what I was doing. I'm retarded. Anyway, that's about all I got unlocked because I realized I was wasting resources on farms, and I wasn't pulling in a lot of resources. I don't know if you know this. I died on every loop I played because I can't not go hard. I can't not. One more. Just one more.
I've like twice gone back to camp.
I go back.
I have 2 farms. I have the kitchen. I think there's an alchemy station. I think I've got that, and then I have the smithy. So you start out.
Yeah,
with
I got a smithy.
Yeah, that's nice. Start out with some weapons and armor.
Yeah,
I got.
Don't forget to equip it though. I was not paying attention the first time I built that.
Yeah, you lose your benefit if you're not equipping that shit.
Yeah, and it's nice. It's not, I mean, I don't really think it's needed unless I think maybe you get into the other chapters, the Smith. But I've gotten pretty much all the buildings on the bottom and second row, besides the crypt, just because I've been playing it safe. I go through about 7-8 times, and then I just cash out and just see what I can buy, because I want to see what I can buy. I want to buy new stuff and see how it affects everything.
Yeah, well, that's why I bought farms, because the thing I could afford when I came back was, I can buy this thing.
I was transitioned to where James is at, and I'm at that point now where now that I've done my 19 loop run, now I'm like, okay, it's time to like actually get resources and try and augment my guy and make him good, because I have a feeling that your town is a huge part of what allows you to get progress late in the game. But like Tyson, the first part of a game, I just got to experience it. So I just got to, how far can I go before everything consumes me? And literally it took every tile on the map having something on it before, and several loops through those, before I finally succumbed to death.
I just wanted to see what everything did, try different patterns, even everything you're placing off in the land, the land tiles, just trying in different orders and different patterns, just trying to figure it all out. Because I didn't want to look up too much stuff. I wanted to see what I could find out on the beginning stuff.
So with the patterns in the tiles, when you're actually doing the loops, like there's obvious combos you can do, right?
Yep.
And like one of them is the mountains, doing the 9x9 like rocks or mountains, and then you get the
harpy.
The mountain pass thingy, whatever it is.
Gives you an increased bonus to what those 9 tiles are giving you.
Harpies, which gets with each monster that you get coming into the tiles, you get additional resources, different types of resources. Yes. So there's good reasons to do it. Like, you're like, why would I want more monsters? No, it's good because you get resources from those monsters in multiple different ways.
Variation of monsters.
Yeah, if you play a one-dimensional run, you're going to get a very one-dimensional set of loot, which is not going to help you in your
unless you're specifically grinding for that one thing.
That's true.
Don't do it that way.
Yeah. And with the mountains, you can only create one big mountain.
Yep.
You can only create one. From that, when you get the water tiles, you can create a river. You can create oasis with it too. So if you have like sand, put it next to the water, it'll create an oasis, which will actually decrease your, I believe, attack speed or something like that. But it also decreases, I think, even more the enemies.
Yep, it decreases yours and it decreases the enemies by basically double the. Not double, but I think it's. They might have modified it because I saw 2 stats. The first one I saw was 0.5 to you and 1% to the enemy. But then I saw one that said 1% to you and 2% to the enemy.
Yeah.
So
either way, that's good because those goblin suckers wreck my shit. They attack so fast. Gosh. And when there's like 6 of them,
it feels like it makes the attack speed a really legitimate way to go because the enemies can't increase their stat. So if you increase your speed stat and then get that reduction, the enemy can't increase their speed stat, so you can like really create a gap between what they're doing there. So another one that you can do is forests with a wizard's tower. And any forests that are in because when you build the wizard's tower, it's going to have these lines. Any forests that are in those lines will get burned, and it increases your magical damage by like 0.5 for each tile that's done or something like that. I believe you lose
the benefit of the forest then.
Yes.
It converts, and that's part of the management.
Are you talking the forest or the meadow? Like the forest that you lay on the tile that spawns rat wolves, or are you talking the meadow that heals you?
So you'll unlock a card later that's a forest that goes into the outer world.
Oh,
and
gotcha.
It's forests and thickets, I think, is the other card that you can get.
Yeah.
And both of those will burn for magic damage, but like James says, any benefit you were getting from the tiles that burn, you won't get. But it converts to magic damage.
Yeah, just be aware when you're transforming your tiles, when you're doing these combos, that it's going to change it. So if you're not going magic route, it might not be worth it. But when I started playing this game, I didn't even realize I didn't read the tiles very well. I didn't realize they did anything. I was like, I gotta be pretty. It's gonna be pretty over here.
Let me spell my name.
And then I'm going to draw a little phallic symbol here.
Yeah. Oh, my God.
It's Dead Space. What are you guys talking about? What are you thinking? The Dead Space.
The twins.
The twins.
H.R. Geiger.
H.R. Geiger. Any other combos you can think of? Because there's so many. I'm sure there's so
a lot that I didn't encounter, but there's also a lot that I did. So the first one I found was the treasure cave one.
Is that the one where you wrap the treasury? Yeah, and that spawns a gargoyle.
But yeah, because it turns it into like an empty cave or something like that.
Empty treasury.
And then you get the gargoyle every 3 turns or 3 days, I believe.
Yeah.
But you also get an added benefit when you complete that circle where it gives you, I get 2 items that are usually high level once you finish that
shitloads of
wraparound.
resources once you do that.
Yeah, that's true.
You basically bust that treasury open and steal all the dwarves' treasure.
And then the other one I found that sucks is, you know, the ones that create the tress, they're called like blood troves or something. If you build 2 of those
Blood
next to
clots.
each other, it'll make a blood path, and then those generate blood clots. And
they're
those
a pain in
super
the
suck.
ass.
Yeah.
those
Don't
blood
overlay your treasure, your battlefield boxes. Don't overlay them, or you'll get clots.
There's
and
definitely
those are bad.
There's definitely weird combos in here
might
that
do
are
it.
just that can be just as bad as they are good. Then there's odd ones like I got these upgraded pillions or whatever that have like these time bender. I can't remember their names, time weaver guys, but they're scared of vampires. So if you build a vampire castle inside of the space of the time weaver orbs, the time weaver guys don't show up and they don't cast shields on everyone. So I'm like, sweet.
They
But
go
then,
in there.
but then
many
you have to
combos.
fight a whole bunch of vampires. So,
They go in there singing that. Weaver.
but here's some of the other ones I thought were good that kind of are
Lawsuit.
less obvious. So I guess later you can get villages that you can build into there. And if you have 4 villages touching, which means not from the corner, they have to be like full sides
Yeah.
next to each other. Then it'll turn into what was it that it turns into?
Dinglebop Estate.
Oh, sorry. 4 suburbs will turn into a town. And I
what
don't
it
know
is.
what the benefit of that is, but I know it's a positive benefit. We talked about the blood. Oh, this is an interesting one.
They put in place HOAs on the vampires.
So if you make a village
would
touching
love
a
that.
vampire
Be
mansion,
hilarious.
it'll become a ransacked village after 3 turns. Or no, it'll become a ransacked village. And then after 3 turns, it will change into I think it's an estate. Let me see here. I've got it.
I think
Counts
that's right.
lands.
Oh, that's
so
right,
you
count
build the
lands.
vampire thing next to a town, it'll make it a ransacked village, and then 3 turns later it becomes a counts lands, and that comes with a positive benefit that's better than what the village would have been, but it's a delayed
Yeah.
effect.
It's like set your ass back to bring yourself forward.
And then the other one that's pretty useful is the shipwreck. So if you put a battlefield touching a river, it'll make it a shipwreck. This spawns a new enemy called the Siren, but what a lot of the sources I were reading didn't factor in is that it also spawns a chest every time. So it's another way to get chests. And
Nice.
chests in this game are stupid useful.
Unless you're a rogue.
Then they're totally not useful.
Why are they not useful? Oh,
You don't
because
really-
you
you don't
cash out
really-
at the end?
Yeah, you cash out at the end, so you don't really get your loot there. You
But
get it
even
at the
so,
end.
some of those the stuff that pops out with is very valuable.
No, it's just wood.
You know what? I know what I'm talking about. I played 3 hours of this game.
It's just wood for the
Turned this on
rogue.
yesterday.
It's just wood for the rogue. That's all you get.
Nah, you need to build a fire sometime.
There's other combos too, but those were the really beneficial ones and the ones that I thought were the most interesting. The other ones are more just kind of like, oh, this changes. Like there's blade grass and other stuff that you can accidentally make.
I
nice.
feel like almost every combo has got to be useful depending on what kind of build you're doing.
There's some that are the opposite of useful on purpose.
Well, yeah. Cool. Well, that's of course, but that's like, yeah, it's useful to know that does that though.
Yeah, in case I ever want to,
So-
difficult myself.
The game is fairly long, actually. Like, I feel like I've got to get a good brunt of it going into it just about, like I said, about 5 or 6 hours. It could be more. That's just what Steam said.
Yeah.
I think every time it messes up, it's like about syncing the save for some weird reason. But it is a fun game. It really is. Looping, I usually don't like repetitiveness, but this just changes it up enough. It adds the random generation into it, makes it feel fresh every time that I've played it so far. So I definitely think I'm going to be able to put another 20 hours into this game if I have the time. We have plenty of games in the future that we're going to have to finish and get ready
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
for. And so
Even though it is just your guy going around a circle, the layout of that circle changes, so it's going to change where you can place things. So it really is fresh, even though it's the same. So
It's so much more fun than I expected it to
Yeah,
be.
I'm
I
blown
honestly,
away.
like, I said this when James because James was the guy that brought it on our radar, by the way. He's like, Loop Hero's a big game. I'm like, what are you even talking about? And then he showed me I watched the trailer because I'd never heard of it. And I was like, oh, that actually does look cool.
why you give James all my credit all the time?
Because James deserves credit.
So
I
here's
brought
the
it
thing.
to the attention.
You're like,
I
here's
just
some
didn't
new
play it.
thing. Loop Hero's kind of looking interesting, and I'm like, okay, let's put it on the map. We're gonna do a podcast on it. So
Now James
all
admitted,
the credit.
My idea.
And that's how it blew up on Twitch because James put it on the map.
Yeah, see, giving my credit
I'm
to
just,
James.
I'm just, yeah, I told you he deserves the credit.
No.
But like, I will say, weirdly, it was right as I was buying it. That was when I started to be like, what if this game sucks? But it's one of I feel like I've been saying this a lot lately. It's one of the best games I've played in a minute, especially for an indie game. Like, it's a ton of fun. I plan to invest a bunch more time into it. I just need, like, I actually need to set this game aside so I can finish Octopath Traveler. But then this is going to be my go-to, probably, like, playing it while we're not doing podcast game for a while, because I want to get deeper into the building, progress the story, because for as much time as I put into this game, technically I have not progressed much at all.
Yeah.
So
I will have to say, it is so nice to do this podcast and have these games that I wouldn't try and then like have fun with it, because I'm gonna have fun. For some reason, having purpose just makes gaming even more fun for me. So like this is one of those ones where I'm just glad I was able to play it, because I don't know if I would have picked it up for a while.
And he's going to have to build those nerves of steel, because he's done really well so far. And I've had a lot of fun playing games I would have never even touched. But when he messes it up, he will live no end of hell. I will give him so much. I'll be like, you did this to me. You did this to me.
And it's going to be a great podcast. And maybe we should do something like that.
It's going to be the Subnautica podcast, because I already know I don't like that game.
That's true. It would probably be that, or I have some weird anime game picks that are on Steam that we're going to be trying out.
Yikes.
No, I'm just kidding.
Those can go either way.
I don't know what we're talking about anymore.
Just James
final
bringing
thoughts. We need to get into final
lost
thoughts.
things to the
My
table.
final thought is this needs to come out on Switch, tablet, and mobile immediately. And I'll buy it on all. I'll buy it again on Switch and on mobile.
Yep. Having said
just
that,
do it.
as a PC game, I super appreciate that I just have to right click.
Oh yeah, it's very nice.
It's like pause, move some things. Okay, we're done. Go.
touch
It's
screen is
literally,
honestly
dude,
incredible.
genre, red light, green light. That's what this is.
Yeah.
Simon Says.
Yeah.
Freeze.
I will have to say it was pretty fun on my Surface, which is my Surface tablet laptop, but you have to double click instead of doing right click. But once you know that, it's not a big deal. It worked pretty good on there, and I liked it because drag and drop. It's just like a big phone.
Yeah, it's perfect.
It is perfect for that. So really, don't come out on mobile or anything. Just everyone needs to go buy a Surface. They're not that expensive. They're only like what, $1,000, $2,000.
I told him I'd buy a
Anyone could
Surface for
afford
this
that.
game.
And
But legit, speaking of prices, this game's like $15. Legitimately, absolutely worth your money to even try it, even if you don't like it. Like that's my 2 cents on that.
I'd pay $45. That's what I'd pay if it came out on my preferred consoles. Mm-hmm. So it's worth it to me for $45. 3 times the price.
wow. Yeah, I'll pay I'll keep it on my.
James will wait for the discount.
No. I don't know if I'd pick this up for anything except for mobile. I'm digging it on my Surface, but then again, I have a portable device, so it's pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much mobile.
We all want it on mobile phones.
Yeah.
That's the final thought.
Final thought on that, yeah. And I definitely recommend it to. I mean, if you're just a Call of Duty first-person shooter, that's the only game you play, you're probably not going to like this, potentially. But I definitely think that there's going to be a lot of people that like. That's the hard part about recommending games to people. Some people, like, this is one of those ones that.
If your mind's open, you'll like this game.
If your mind's open.
Yeah, I should say, if you like games, you'll like, because that's what this feels like. It feels like a game. And to be fair, I'm kind of middle of the road on that. I do like games, but I'm not as willing to play like anything as some people are. But I will play outside of my comfort zone. It just has to look interesting. Yeah. And this game, this would have never come across my radar. And that's why I'm saying try it. If you like games, try it.
Yep. So we're in consensus, like with every game I feel like we talk about.
We're in consensus. Don't buy the game. It was awful. And thanks for coming to the Games Reveal podcast. No.
Yeah.
Great game. I loved it.
No.
I can't recommend it enough. 11 out of 10.
I'm going to give it maybe like a 5 out of 5.
6 out of 5 from James.
No,
and 3 out of 2 from Shag.
3 out of 2. I'm going to give it a Hades +1. That's how much I liked it.
Let's exit on this. Make sure to, whatever platform you're listening to this, YouTube, Spotify, Apple, whatever it is, please follow the podcast for updates in the future. Subscribe, like, whatever it is on your platform. It helps us get the message out to more people about the awesomeness of Games Revealed. And Studios, this is James.
And I'm Tyson.
And I'm Shagwell.
And we're signing out. Peace out.
Like and
Studios, this is James.
And I'm Tyson.
And I'm Shagwell.
And we're signing out. Peace out.
Like and subscribe.